which is not very quiet.
Oh, man. Oh, Kana. Oh, also,
I'm ready. Need something?
Veldigana's eyes glimmer with a divine spark as she coolly appraises you. I was wondering about your order, the Brotherhood of the Five Sons. Back in the Republics, we called it the Fremas Mes Consuelias. Wonder how much I butchered that pronunciation. The Five Sons are the Dukes of Bells, the great dukes who rule over the most powerful republics. Esperanto, Anzenzo, Salona, Ozio, and Rivua. The Dukes of Bells keep the republics moving forward, keep us at the forefront of the trade and technology, keep us strong against our rivals. We brothers are sworn to aid and protect them for the good of the republics and their citizens. You say brothers, but my breastplate bulges in the wrong spot. She cracks a small kitten. I like her. I may look like a woman and sound like a woman, but according to the Republic's laws, I am not. Interesting. What they call godlike, people like me, we can never bear children. Really? Oh, so we can't be real women. Oh, for what's that's worth. Most women in the Republics, if they can bear children, it's like the sun has set on their lives. Well, that's unfortunate. But what it was worth to me, freedom. The Brotherhood has a prohibition against women entering, but I was allowed. Many resented the decision, but I learned long ago not to care. I want to ask something else about the Brotherhood. How does that work? With five dukes, they can't agree all the time. She throws her head back and laughs. Of course not. They argue endlessly in the Songreta Ducala. The Brotherhood is forbidden to take sides in their debates. Not that I'd want to. I'd rather risk life and limb fighting the Republic's enemies than listen to the drowning lectures of the Ducal Congress. Our loyalty is not to individual dukes, but to the dukes as a whole, to their collective will and resolutions. We follow the mandates of the Ducal Congress. The individual dukes direct us, but they have an understanding of how we are not to be used. How do people in the Valian Republics feel about the godlike? Like with anyone who's different, most people are curious or afraid, and if they're afraid, he shrugs. They get angry. They want to make sense of the world, and people like me can be confusing. And believe me, people are easily confused. Her tone becomes more serious as her voice and gaze drift off. After a long moment, she looks back to you. We all have to protect ourselves, no matter where we are. Being different means always looking over your shoulder, no matter what company you keep. You're one of the godlike, aren't you? He lets out a smile of, that's what they call me, yes. I've never met a god, so I don't know what they're like. I can't say why everyone else presumes to understand why I was born this way. Where in the Valian Republics are you from? I was born in a fishing village near Biagep. Her brow furrows, her golden eyes looking away as she searches for a lost memory. I can't remember the name. She waves her feathered hand dismissively. I was only there for a few years. My best memory was leaving that place. Like all the other brothers, I grew up under the Ozian's bastions. It wasn't easy, but I prefer to gutting fish. Why are you concerned about animancy and Divine Spay? People look at the republics as a nation of traders. We do engage in much commercial trade through Defiance Bay, but the greatest value we have found is not written on a ledger line. It's intellectual wealth, the ideas that we exchange. The Direwood of the Valian's republics are the world's leaders in animancy. The Direwood institutes prohibitions against research and practice of animancy It will have serious repercussions for the Valian Republics. Do you see animancy as just something to be traded? Or do you... She snorts dismissively. I'm not a scientist, but I believe animancy can benefit us all. There are so many questions to be answered about who we are and why I am the way I am. If we can answer them, maybe we can make life better for everyone. Hey, Dan, how's it going? Bing bong, how's it going, buddy? Welcome back. Long time no see, man. Don't you think there are dangers in animancy? Of course it's dangerous, but we who live in the Eastern Reach, we are the children of pioneers. We sought out the danger. She nods her head decisively. This is why all the best researches must happen in the new world. Your birthday's tomorrow? Well, happy freaking birthday, man! A little early, but happy birthday! How old are you gonna be? Let's talk about something else. I'd like to know you're gonna be 5. Wow, you are young. 23. Well, happy early birthday, man. If we can get more happy birthdays for Dan, that would be great. Anyways, I'd like to know your opinion on something. She nods her feathered head sharply. Ask and you will know. How do you do things? How do you think things are going? Diplomatic 1. I'm glad you know how much can be gained from diplomacy and the Brotherhood. In the Brotherhood, we are trained to keep our physical strength in reserve and use wits and words to navigate our way through most conflicts. And she raises a feathered finger to emphasize her point. There will always be a time for a war, but I'm glad to see you have restraint not to succumb to the desire every time the opportunity arises. You spend a lot of time on Direwood. What do you make of it? Deerwood, not Direwood. Deerwood. It's not the Republic's, but the Deerwood is one of our closest allies. We trade more with the Deerwood than any other nation, and we have no greater ally in supporting animancy research. Gilligan shakes her head slightly. Still, I do not understand the Deerwooden obsession with revenge and feuds, nor the widespread hatred of Orlanes. The Orlanes from Irgland Fath fight for their homes and their culture, as anyone would. They fight dirty, but I would too if all my enemies were twice my size. Do the Republics view the Adir Empire as a threat? We used to view the Empire as a threat. Since the revolution in Deerwood, the Republics have benefited from the shield that the Deerwood provides. Another reason why I fear the fall of the Defiance Bay. The Deerwood is weak. Adir will surely test the Republic's dominance in Eastern Reach. What do you know of Rutai? They've done impressive things with cannon and artillery, and some of their ship designs are interesting, but they shout too loudly over minor accomplishments. She smiles softly. No one seriously questions that the Republics control all sea lanes in the Eastern Reach. That's it. Okay, I think you still have some questions. Okay, I still have some questions.
If doubts and curiosity plague you, you're skidding your knuckles on the wrong door.
Tell me about Malagran. No, you know her. You must. Gives a bitter chuckle, then his tone evens out. She's a many-headed bitch. Oh. Hey, what is your view on Malagran?
She's a goddess, as fickle as they come. And with all the failings you'd expect of an empress and a whore. Too many eyes, too many wants, too much to hold on to. That's the failing of a god. More aspects than words to describe her, like most of them. A god with many nations to oversee, only serves to spread herself too thin.
Although flame rarely crosses twice. So perhaps that is the only truth she embraces. Flame rarely crosses twice. Okay, who knows? Gods get greedy. When it comes to fire, fire is the god's hunger. What are her aspects? The king counted his fingers. War transforms, fire consumes, trials purify. Warfare, fire consuming, purification, and most of all, transforming. Trials as well, but all things are put to the test anyway. A trial can consume, purify, transform. They are all linked, although it at its heart is the flame, and the flame is what matters. It is the source of all things. Guess they should have started with that, eh? Any fool around a campfire knows that. Without flames, fire, we would have made little progress in the dark. Here, some of the inner fires tell it around the hearth and bellows. Even in the halls of Ashfall, you'd think that fire brought life to man, and that fire was Magron. Some of the older texts say that she rubbed her hands together and they burst into flame. Or another god shafted her like a poker. Okay. There are different perspectives on her then. Oh. He grunts. Mine is only one sight among many. Durance frowns, pauses, then his eyes take on an eager gleam. But here's one. I can speak to how the losing side sees her, and that should tell you enough. Let me speak to what an Adirian sees. What does an Adirian see? The Adirians have a proper, polite translation of her. Excellence in war, tactical discipline. That's what they lost the effing colony, of course. That's why they lost the effing colony, of course. And they were probably still quoting that while we had them bent across the decks. All their guns and cannons are fine, but useless when your staff is cracking light into their skulls, dispensing red gifts left and right. Durance's fists tighten, and he laughs. Adirians call the elevations divine awareness. Those words are as welcome as a shit on one's boots. This guy really does not like anyone, does he? And that's all they took back with them. And that's all they took back with them while they were running. He shakes his head. A lesson learned at the wrong time. Almost feel a pang of sympathy for them. Almost. Lesson? What do you mean? The title of a god isn't knowing a god, adhering to words rather than walking to the path, testing yourself in the heat of it. Walk until the words are stripped away and you feel it burning in your heart. That is the lesson. That adhering politeness, that pretty adherence to the word of scripture as they saw it, that burned their ships, scared them, kept them running throughout the Deerwood campaign. Divine awareness. There's no true faith in waiting to be tested. The best in battle have already shite themselves plenty. Shite themselves until they're dry and can focus on the killing. How about other questions?
I suspect the answers will seed more questions.
Does she have any allies?
Some, shaped for hunt and war. Abidan the Golem, Galawain and his beasts. The latter keeps us honest and awake. The other makes the tools by which we punish those who are not.
Abidan? Not surprised you haven't heard. War gods than weeds in a field, and those are only the ones of this lifetime. They come and go, but are always here at the same time. Abidan used to look human, and Durance grunts. God killed, then built a new body for himself. Transformation with Magran's help. Perhaps she needed her own blacksmith to tend the fires. If so, Abidan serves. Durance frowns. He's a weapon, a tool, not a god in my mind. And still, people of Deerwood, the cities especially, hold him dear. So be it. Although if the reward for hard work and craftsmanship is a body like this, I'll keep my blood and my cock and hips to thrust with it. Okay. Well, we know where his priorities are. You also mentioned Galawin. Now, Monster Father, the Great Hound, and as for monsters, this world is quite a bit quite a bit, and not just the ones on two legs. It's as if he's made monsters solely to hunt them, to remind men of their place. He's busy making more, I suspect. More monsters than sense, variation upon variation. What do you mean? Oh. His aspects are a confusing bunch, and considering he respects reversals of fortune, especially in beasts, perhaps not so confusing. No reason why Magren and he shared a bed in my eyes, even if he does believe in the trial of a filthy Orlon god in many ways, howling and mewling perhaps like they do. They can keep their beasts. I'll take fire and weapons any day. Who are our enemies?
Before, when you asked about allies, well now, ally, enemy, that's a skin's edge of difference in history's eye. But there were enemies.
Aethys. Durance gives a cold grin, nods. But we sorted that out. Then Hylia, and her queen's crown of feathers and birds. Perhaps she claims to see the world from her perch. I hope she saw what happened to Aethys, and if she dares to walk upon an earth where much fire runs. Her temples are things of windows and twittering music. If a bird falls, know that it's a victory. Seeing another set of darting eyes for the feathered bee die is a pleasure to me. You bear her a lot of rage. She and her clergy offer shelter to the Eothasians, since his death. I need to figure out the proper pronunciation of that word. His humiliation. She's next for me. Well, that's all I wanted to discuss. Okay. Is there anything new with you?
Mysterious figures and crumbling ruins. We've stepped into the very best of tales.
Glad you're enjoying yourself. I don't think the lower college will believe half of what I tell them. Do you think I should make a drawing of the temple?
Following your lead. What? It's good to be on the road again. I was thinking of a wanderlust is nothing rare. What rhymes with Watcher? But often I think myself alone in loving the land as much as the sea.
How are you holding up?
What shall we see next, I wonder?
I'm ready if you are, Kana grins. Tell me about yourself.
What shall I tell? I am Kanarua, born in the royal city of Takoa, from which rules the Ranga Nui. There. That is a solemn enough start. I am a lore chanter in the college there. Or at least a student of lore and a chanter both.
The accent's right, but you don't look like you're from Ruatai. Do I not? He grins squiggly. I take your meaning. My family is from the Deadfire Archipelago, but I've never seen the islands. My parents traveled to Ruatai many years before I was born. They found more opportunity in Ruatai. My mother took to crafting cannons, aspiring pirate that she is. And my father's work with the coral caught the eye of someone important, and then the Ranga Nui himself. The rest followed. Requirement not met. What? What would you like to know? What made you leave the college?
I was on the usual path at first. Theology, the traditions, when the Gate of Great Teeth was completed. It was all my father had hoped for. The greatest commission he had ever received. But it was also a sign that Rawatai was changing, looking inward. Meanwhile, I was neck deep in the writing of a dozen nations, marveling at all the things that lay beyond our borders.
And in so many of those books and records, I found accounts of ancient Engwith. The Adirians hold a great hunger for Engwithan relics, and why shouldn't they? It was the civilization from which the Glenfathans learned to read souls. I decided that my third degree would be in history and that I would study the Engwithans. They were at the heart of so much discussion abroad, so many discoveries. I drew some mockery. We'd watched the Adir draw itself into several conflicts with the Glenfathans over these ruins. Teikawa had its own concerns. And soon I found it, a section of the Tanvi Ore Tawa, in an adherent translation of ancient Ingwithan script, just there, without explanation. It seemed like a gift from the gods. Tell me about the Lord Chanters. My eldest brother thinks we spend our days in song, weaving wreaths from flowers, but the truth is far less exciting than that. The college preserves what knowledge our people have gathered. I would have it said that the Lord Chanters are Ruatai, for without them, we'd have no beginning, no sense of how far we've come. We would forget ourselves with every generation. I'm an only student yet, but someday I'll return and tell the keeper what I learned, and she will add my verses to the chant. What is the gate to the great teeth? Much as it sounds, a maze of walls, like the teeth of some nautical terror. It sits outside the city and guards Taikawa from invaders and storms. The storms have always been more trouble. Nuitanri, the angry titans, throw themselves against Ritai's shores. Invaders, I'm not so sure about, but perhaps I'm like the man who, being dry, throws off his rain cloak during a storm. So my mother would have me believe. Has Ruatai changed much since I left? Well, the Bahari grow in influence. They'd had the Ranganui focus on our efforts on expanding north and close all the ports to foreigners from the south. And Taikawa, at least, feels smaller. With the gate of Great Teeth finished, trade has diminished. Those gleaming rooftops, the silver cliffs, the sea, those at least are the same. The day I boarded the ship, the sunrise was gold upon the water, and I nearly leapt overboard and swam for home. What is this sacred book you're looking for?
The Tanvi Oratoa. It's not really a book. It's been passed down over the years in the form of a chant. I actually found it a little strange at first, seeing it set down in stone. It's not quite the same as a song of worship, though we have paeans to the gods as well. More a kind of moral guide. It gives us something to aspire to. The, model of a virtuous citizen of Rawatai.
Why look for it out here?
There have been arguments as to the chant's true interpretation. New translations, even. But any rendition of it I find in the ruins of Engwith will predate those translations by 2,000 years. And finding it here also proves that we still have much to gain from trading with other cultures. I'd be lying if I said I'm not looking forward to seeing the look on everyone's faces when I get back. But in the long term, I just think that we can learn a lot from the Engwithians. A civilization like that is something to aspire to. A model for Rawatai as a whole, and not just its people. And I want to prove that all of this is worthwhile. Traveling, seeing the world for what it is. It's been so different from sitting in the Chanter Hall and studying books.
Sounds boring.
You'll see a few children nodding off in the middle, I grant you. But the chant is not something taken lightly, and two factions vie for the king's ear. We've been spared the civil wars and petty conflicts of our neighbors thus far. I'd rather it stay that way.
You came all the way just to win an argument?
More or less. It wasn't a popular theory when I suggested it. The idea that we shared the Tanvi Oratoha with some older culture, doesn't mean it's not true. It doesn't help that my family is from the Deadfire Islands. If I had a copper pond for every chanter who suggested that it's just not in my nature to conquer. My siblings, my parents, they make up for it. They build walls and cannons and ships. I've tried to explain. It isn't that I think those things aren't necessary, but if Rawatai closes itself off from trade, turns on its own people over tradition, we will fall behind, and then we'll be the ones getting conquered. I think my father tries to understand at least.
Want to have crumbled away by now?
Much of Ingwith's writing is lost to us, but an engraving would survive. I found several tablets at the site in Exametal. The scholar Gabranos, in particular, seems to have been fond of writing on the walls. I may have to ask you to help me carry it, if it's a large stone.
Describe this. So describe this virtuous citizen.
Dutiful, learned, honest. The sticking point is loyal. Loyal to the people of Rawatai above all others. Fearless in their defense, and bold in aspiration. Tireless in battle or industry. An inspiration to one's people. But it seems it's not that far a leap from there to the idea that we must cast out foreign influences.
Hold on. Good. Is that what you aspire to be?
Doesn't everyone want to be a good citizen?
You think the Anguithans were the true authors?
I don't know that the distinction is necessarily important. Rawatai has a long history, and our people have come from many different places. It matters less who wrote it than that I have found pieces of the verses all around the world. Wherever it came from, it will be Rawatai that decides what becomes of it. All the races and peoples of our kingdom coming together to create a great empire. You see, then, that I am loyal in my way.
Out of the questions. You're being hunted by the Leaden Key. So it seems. It's all rather absurd. What harm could I possibly do them by finding this text? Perhaps they don't like Rawatai. How did this all begin? I ran into them in Nadir, or rather, they sought me out. In Nadir, there were many people who had observed the Anguithan ruins in the Nadir wood, and I spent some time conferring with experts. In the libraries, I found accounts of sites in Ixamatil, and it was there I traveled next. But just before that, I found myself approached by a woman in dark robes who bade me abandon my studies for my own safety. I ignored her, of course, but I began to have the sense after that of being followed. And after that, well, one ambush on the road I could call misfortune, but 3? Who are these people? I thought it only fair to delve into their activities in turn. I found word of Leaden Key, but past that, it was all ravings and superstitions. I might as well have gone around asking whether someone had ever seen a whale flying through the air. That would be funny. Where was I? Okay, some might well tell me yes, but the validity of their accounts is questionable. You don't seem worried about this. They haven't had much luck. The last one came up on me at a dig site and slipped on a muddy beam. I tried to catch him, reflex, I should think, but he went right over the side and down 100 feet. Not really sure what he had in mind, but I doubt it was that. Do you know anything about this place? An odd mix of a sewer and tomb. This place, bones from more than a few esteemed lineages rest in these catacombs. Personally, I would rather be buried somewhere with fewer rats. All right, let's be on our way. Do you have anything else? Nope. Anything new on you? No. I need you to leave. Never mind, let's get going. All right, then. That's everything.
Hello.
Let's go!
Don't even slow it!
Okay.
Let's go!
That's not very helpful.
I'm ready.
Not even slowing it down!
Hello? Hello?
Sure.
Do 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 boop. Who? Interesting. Let's fix this up just a little bit more. Boom, boop, boom, boom.
That's settled.
Sweet. Yeah, she's way ahead of us in XP. Yeah, she's way ahead of us in XP. I love it, and I'm also not quite happy about it.
Battle! Border! Slowly now.
Do 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 boop, boop. That was just a fine piece of armor. Oh.
It's not.
There we go. Good God. 43 damage. Rit. Merciless Companion. Woo.
Ready, Watcher.
Damn. Let's see who has the highest damage now. Most enemies defeated, still Z. Most total damage done, still Z. Okay. Highest single target damage, Aidloth at 49. Oh, Idumok came close. Most crits, Sagani. Most hits, Z. Most damage taken, Z. Most times knocked out, Durance, still at 10. That's